Hello and welcome to Picture Astrology. In this quick video, we will talk about placement of Jupiter in the sign of Sagittarius, which is, although quite an adventurous sign, is still most respectful towards old customs, rituals and traditional knowledge. And add to that, Sagittarius also holds the moon tricone area for the planet of Jupiter. And this gives various shades to the placement of Jupiter in this sign. So in this quick video, we will definitely look at those different implications apart from finding the physical, mental and psychological effects of this placement from a very practical point of view. So one of the most important qualities of Sagittarius sign is that it has two fairly distinct nature which are attributed to two factors. One of them is that the sign or the symbol of Sagittarius is a centaur, a mythological figure who is half man and half horse. And therefore the first 15 degrees of the sign are attributed to much more human qualities, whereas the rest of the 15 degrees which belong to the four-footed animal qualities are considered to be a little bit more aggressive. And not just that, among the first 15 degrees, especially the 10 degree area is the Mool Trikona sign of Sagittarius. And if you see my video about Mool Trikona sign, you will notice that that area further emphasizes the much more human qualities of the Sagittarius sign. So it's in this area where the quest of knowledge, even the mastery of arts and poetry, especially in the traditional form, the learning of rituals and customs and shastras, all of that is primarily related to this part. Now, not that the knowledge and other things don't relate to the other half of Sagittarius, it does. But in the second half, these knowledge and deep learning are more likely to be expressed in terms of great administrative ability, executive ability. If, say, Mars and 6th house are strong, then you are great war strategists. People who can do long-term planning with great precision. Even aspect of Mars on this placement with Jupiter in Sagittarius, especially in the second half, is related to scars on the body, or in a militarily inclined horoscope it can show wounds inflicted during a battle time. Now remember, the sign of Sagittarius is a dual fire sign, and if you see dual fire, it is more like like a lantern or a source of light which can be used for purposes of providing light as well as a weapon to either fight off enemies or scare away negative forces. If you see, fire or light source can light the way in darkness in a jungle and at the same time easily repel away any wildly beasts. And that's that dual nature of fire here. It is not the fire which is used to cook food. It is the fire which can provide light as well as a weapon to fight. And that's precisely what these two distinct qualities of the sign in the first and the second half, including the symbol of the Sagittarius sign, represents. Now the sign of Sagittarius as well as Jupiter is intrinsically linked with old knowledge, old traditions, old customs. And although fire signs are supposed to be very, very adventurous, they are supposed to break all the laws. See, fire hardly respect laws. But the sign of Sagittarius not only gives great respect but also a deeper understanding and scientific meanings of the knowledge which is carried through generations and in our lineage. And since the Jupiter is a representation of grandparents, especially the paternal grandparents, people who have this placement either have great influence of their father's father on their life, or in fact their entire family be in some ways influenced by them. And this is more so when the 9th house is favorably placed. And if the Jupiter is somehow associated with your first house or ascendant, which shows your appearance in this world, then the person is definitely recognized for his good ethics and knowledge and well behavior around the world. However, since it is Jupiter and it is one of the biggest benefic planet, so what happens is, even if Jupiter is say functional malefic in your chart, or it has ownership of negative houses, even in that case, when Jupiter is in the sign of Sagittarius, it somehow gives a impression that the person is very knowledgeable. That I think is the beauty of this benefic Jupiter. If it is well placed, then even when it is the lord of negative houses, at least the impression it gives you is always positive. What happens in your real life, what happens is your own personal experience, that may be different thing or debatable. And in many cases it is also a indication of good inheritance from your family, and especially good inheritance from your grandparents, as we just discussed. Now what happens is, if the Jupiter is again lord of functional negative houses, then it at least shows that your family had a very good name in past. A good name is kind of trickling down in your family, and because of those connections of your family, because of the Purva Punya, see, Jupiter is the planet which shows Purva Punyas, or basically the results of past life good karmas. So what it basically shows is that the good name, the good connections which your family since the time of your grandparents, that they have made in this world, those could be very helpful for you in this life, even if you don't get physical money or physical inheritance. You will get an inheritance in some intangible form. It can also mean, many people, especially in the Eastern cultures, who have traditionally old books in their home, books and artifacts of religious significance carried through over generation, passed on from generation to generation. Access to that level of knowledge, of that level of repository of knowledge passed on in this life, is also a very big signification of Jupiter placed in Sagittarius sign. Now in women's chart, especially Vedic astrology says that Jupiter represents the Karka of husband, and therefore Jupiter in this traditional sign of Sagittarius is actually a good indication of a good formal married life and a husband who is very learned, very educated. Now if you just see this one particular placement, see, marriage depends on many factors, 7th house, 7th lord, aspects on 7th house and so on, and each of them are like one single sutra. But if you see just this placement of Jupiter in Sagittarius, this sutra shows that yes, husband will be learned, and also this sutra represents that a person who would be pretty mature in terms of mental and emotional thinking. And say if there is an aspect of Saturn on the 7th house or on Jupiter, then the age difference between the spouse or the partners could also be little bit more. And especially if the Saturn's aspect is on the 7th house, then the marriage of the person could be also at a later age. Now how exactly late, that obviously depends on the aspects of 7th house, 7th lord, etc. But at least later than 28 years of age. And if this Jupiter is anyways related to 7th house, or say like aspect 7th house, or it's placed in the 7th house, then the marriage will have a very visible social component. Like there will be things like bonhomie between the families, or a pretty large social gathering for the marriage. And especially in Eastern cultures, people tend to participate in religious ceremonies a lot after marriage. Or in general, the couple could be well known in society, in social circle, or take part together in various activities of social good. So likewise, there are many different predictions which can be made by understanding one sutra of a planet in a sign, very properly. So friends, this was my very quick analysis of Jupiter in Sagittarius. We will definitely look at this combination for various ascendant that can help us go into deeper analysis and precise predictions. I really hope this would have been useful, and I thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.